So in this course, we're learning about Indigenous people all over the world. It's not just Canadian Indigenous people. And this sort of helps us to understand from like a global perspective.
My greatest takeaway was the constant struggles that are persisting in society about Indigenous people today.
So you learn so much about the different cultures and aspects of Indigenous people's lives that you never would have known before if you hadn't taken the course.
Yeah, and also right now we're in our short story unit, and so we read a bunch of different short stories from different Indigenous authors, and they have so many different perspectives from one another, and it just shows that Indigenous peoples, there's a big diversity in their culture.
I feel like we've learned about many different events in this course. We learned about many Mohawk events, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and many other Indigenous tribes. We're really learning about these events through many different perspectives, like not only through our own, but also through the Indigenous perspective.
One of the biggest takeaways that I found interesting was how the Indian Act is the only race-based laws in the world, and I feel like, in my opinion, we shouldn't have that, because we should be treating everyone with equal and with respect, and the fact that we have that in place shows the disgusting things, or the history that Canada has done to the Indigenous in the past.
So one of my greatest takeaways is that I learned in this course is that usually the Indigenous culture is usually misinterpreted in social media or news outlets, and to actually be in this course and to actually learn about it, it makes you have a different perspective and to see what's really going on behind social media.
A major thing that I took out of this course was that Canada tries to seem as a perfect country, but there's an extremely dark past that they try to hide. But it's important that we acknowledge our mistakes as a community and move forward towards a more equitable society for Indigenous communities overall.
So for unlearning, at my elementary school, we never brushed upon the topic of residential schools or really Indigenous people in general. It was just kind of a topic that was pushed aside and never spoken about. So I'm basically just unlearning all the things that I thought I knew. I didn't really know what a residential school was until I came here. And what I'm learning is what actually occurred at the schools and a new part of Canada's history that's not really that new, but something that not a lot of people know about.
The way this course is applying to my everyday life and what's happening in this generation, it's kind of it's very important to this course and the well-being of this course. Even though it is a fresh course and it just started, you can see that what we're learning in here isn't just your everyday math or English class, it's history, it's our history. And it kind of makes me proud that I'm involved in a class like this, because I can learn about other things I never really got taught about.
A great deal of the course, for me at least, has just helped me have a lot more sympathy than I had prior. In reference to truth and reconciliation, some of the calls to action were educating kids in schools about it, and I guess we're the first part of that experiment, or call to action, and I know that I really appreciate it.
Going forward, I plan to try to be a bit more active in my community and do what I can to support those who are part of the Indigenous community as well, because there are minorities and issues concerning them as well. Before I was not as informed, I guess, but now that I am, I feel like I should be more involved.
How it's going to prepare me for the future. It's going to allow me to teach my children and generations after that to know the importance of the truth of this history. It's important to hear them and to learn from them, especially. This is their land where they originated from, so to learn their ways. Their culture is so beautiful. As with every other culture, it's important to embrace it and just to welcome it.
Well, I think since it has given me a deeper understanding, I think I can stand more in solidarity with Indigenous peoples of Canada, and I think it's more important for young people to learn this, because if we are, because I was doing some research, there's only 13 out of the 94 calls to action that have been completed. So I think if we want the government to acknowledge Indigenous peoples more, I think we young people have to call for that as well, because I think the government is gonna listen to young people because we're like the future.